And welcome back to Janky AF and Year of the Aerostar, episode number 105. Well, last episode we sort of diverted from our global Aerostar quest, doing our sort of like European, just non-continental US residency. And more breaking news, I'm getting very, very distracted by a slew of Aerostars that have popped up slightly more locally than Western Europe and Central and Eastern Europe for that matter. But I can't get around talking about this one, so we're just gonna have to launch right into it. And without further ado, here we go. So here we have a 1994 Ford Aerostar Cargo Extended Minivan, listed for just $975 in Wake Forest, North Carolina. And boy, do we have an absolutely janky gem here. I'm so excited to talk about this one. It's one of my favorite categories of Aerostar, which is like, you know, rode hard and put away wet. It's also, going back all the way to episode number 1 of Year of the Aerostar, a 300,000 plus mile Aerostar. So we have to talk about that, and we'll get right into it. So about this vehicle, driven 311,000 miles. Now, you know, 100,000 miles, is definitely a benchmark. It's sort of like, you know, what every car should make it to, honestly, without too many major issues. I feel like in today's standards, 100,000 miles is like the benchmark. 200,000 miles is like, you know, you're doing really good. You see old trucks with 200,000 miles. You see Lexuses and Toyotas and stuff like that with 200,000 miles. Hondas. I feel like the Japanese cars, on average, make it to 200,000. At least from anecdotal evidence, I see more so. Although you see a lot of old trucks that have made it that far too. Now, probably a lot of those are diesels. Diesels seem to just last longer generally in terms of, you know, odometer counts. But 300,000 miles is where you really get into like serious longevity territory. And we've seen several Aerostars cross 300,000 mile threshold, and we have another one here today. So very excited about that. Automatic transmission, exterior color blue, interior color black. We'll see about that. Fuel type gasoline, 17 mpgs city, 23 highway for a combined 19 mpgs. Not great, but it's a big vehicle. 3+ owners. The vehicle is paid off, and we do have a clean title. Now, very, very funny in the seller's description. 2004 Ford Aerostar XL cargo van. There's a lot interesting about this. The funny thing is, you know, it's obviously not a 2004, it's 1994, which they say, and this is what boggles my mind about Marketplace and Craigslist ads and stuff like that. They've written in 1994 in the description, so they know it's a 94. They have the title, they have a picture of the title. But somehow when they're typing it out, like, you can't even mistake 1994 with 2004. Like, 4 is the only number that's the same in those two dates. So you have to type in 3 different numbers, 200 instead of 199 before you get to the 4. Now, you know, I get it. You're typing up. I don't think people are quite as fastidious or, you know, quite neurotic, to be honest. To be frank, about, you know, writing up a post about a vehicle they're selling, especially for $975. I would be, but again, that's just me. That's not necessarily patting myself on the back. It's just reality. So, but it is funny. So maybe they had 2004 on their mind. Maybe they had another car 2004, who knows, whatever. But it's just hilarious to even see 2004. Now, the funny thing about that is, I believe the Astro van was made until 2004. And I recently had more people, confuse Aerostars with Astro vans while talking to me about them, which, you know, that's a whole other story. But And it would have been interesting to see, I've talked about it in other videos, if the Aerostar had made it to 2004, how it would compare to the Astrovan nowadays, because you would have had, an additional, 7 to 8 years, depending on what you're looking at in terms of model year or actual year that it was produced, of the Aerostar out there. How many more? They probably would have made, probably another close to 500,000 units in those years. And so there would be still so many of them more out there, and it's just a shame that the regulations that came into effect ultimately killed off the Aerostar in 1997, 2 years later than it was set to be sunsetted in 1995. If you're watching this, you probably know a little bit of history about the Aerostar. So if not, you can go back, watch other videos, and get more. As a matter of fact, a lot of people who watch these know more about the Aerostar than I do, which is truly, just a feather in all of your caps collectively and individually. Okay, engine runs strong and transmission shifts smoothly. Now, spoiler alert, we will get actually a video with this listing, so we'll try to watch that. The other thing that's funny is it's called a cargo van, and just to skip ahead briefly, it clearly doesn't have barn doors, and it clearly at one point had an interior. So it's not the cargo, it's the passenger. But I kind of like this because, if you used it as a cargo van, suddenly it is a cargo van. So I guess if someone took an Aerostar racing or turned it into a race car, they could call it a sport model. And even though it wasn't like the sport trim package, I guess you could get away with calling it a sport model because you use it as a sporting car. So I kind of like the de facto, the realpolitik of, calling this a cargo van, because clearly that's how it's functioning now. But more accurately, in terms of trim level, this was, I think, a passenger van. Again, neither here nor there. One of those little eccentricities and sort of a minutia that we like to talk about here on this program. Clean North Carolina title, and the title has already been notarized. The vehicle is located at my home. Now they're making this public, so I guess I shouldn't feel bad about making this public, and probably more people are seeing this post on Marketplace than are seeing it on YouTube on the Aerostar, so it almost doesn't matter. I won't read it aloud here, but clearly this is public information, and this person feels fine stating their address, so I don't want to dox anybody. Maybe I'll try to blurt it out if my fat head isn't in front of it. But there you have it. So I like that. It's literally like a scavenger hunt. Like the first person to show up at this address with $975, this is the prize you get. And boy, I could think of worse ways to spend $975. I actually now there was a powder blue Aerostar. I'll try to put it in the description. I can't remember what episode it was. It was probably in the 60s somewhere. And my good buddy Friel, who has later since outed himself as the person who was going to help me on this mission, was going to buy this van, drive it up. He tends to generally be in and amongst his travels down in the Virginia area, so I will be getting a hold of him and seeing if he feels, which is about 2 hours away from where this vehicle is located, seeing if he feels like going on a mission. Now, how you get the car back up here, I don't know, but he's always up for an adventure, so maybe we can make something happen. And I'll explain more about why I'm so into this particular van as we go along, but I mean, just looking at it, you can kind of see it's like very, very janky, and there's so much jankiness going on that it's just overwhelming, and I love absolutely everything about it, and we'll get into detail. The first person who comes with $975 cash owns the truck. It's like a game show. Cash App or Venmo or Zelle also accepted. So in theory, I could probably contact this person and Venmo them the money right now, and I would in theory own this truck. And I do like that they call it a truck too, because I don't say this that much on the program, but I believe it was 1990. It was either 90 or 91. I think it was 90. The Ford Aerostar was Motor Trend's Truck of the Year. And I always love that because the Aerostar has this very sort of fluid identity where it's neither really a car nor a van nor a truck completely. It's got truck-like chassis components and towing capacity. Rear wheel drive is like a truck, but then it's also like a van, obviously, just because it takes on the form of a van. But it's also somewhere between even a van and a minivan, but then it's also kind of car-like, because at this point in time, minivans were still sort of in the car territory as opposed to like the van territory, like the big Econolines and like almost like a miniature bus. So it has this wonderfully dynamic personality as a vehicle. But I like when people refer to it as a truck, because it's not wrong to refer to it as a truck, just like it's not wrong to refer to it as a van, just like it's not wrong to refer to it as a car. So, and it was Motor Trend's 1990 Truck of the Year. So, it's an accolade well worth sharing and celebrating. That, again, people come down on the Aerostar, or they mock it, or they don't take it seriously. The Aerostar often, again, aside from living in the Chevy Astro and GMC Safari shadow, which it clearly does. I mean, with anecdotally, so many people have come up to me, even people that know I'm enthusiastic about this car, and they'll call it, Astro, or your Astro vans, or your Aerostars, and like, even it's just funny that it's often like this. I know people that, I have a good friend from Switzerland, shout out to Schmitty, and people would always say, oh, your friend from Sweden. So if something kind of sounds vaguely familiar or vaguely similar and is in the same sort of geographic ballpark of whatever, universe it's existing in, whether it actually be geography or in this case vehicles, it's an easy and common mistake to make, and it's completely harmless. At the same time, it's interesting what happens psychologically when the Aerostar is always on the wrong side of that misidentification and not the other way around. And they made over 2 million of them. It ran for 2 years longer than it was ever supposed to be, or ever initially designed to be, or it got 2 years of extra life after it was going to be canceled. And car manufacturers are fairly ruthless when they decide to cancel something. So it has all these interesting things that it's done that almost no other vehicle has done. And yet despite that, it gets sort of cast aside or forgotten about or looked down upon. So it's nice to have an accolade such as Truck of the Year to really distinguish it as, and have this sort of very kind of concrete evidence. Now, how much credit we want to give Motor Trend as a publication, I mean, I'm sure that's up for debate, but at least we can point to something within sort of the accepted legacy automotive sphere in which praise has been doled out to this vehicle. So I got all that from them calling it a truck. So clearly a lot on my mind in terms of in regards to the Aerostar and just how wonderful a vehicle it is. Let's look at some pictures, shall we? I mean, the first thing that jumps out, obviously, is the entire front bumper is missing. I like how you can kind of see the factory overspray here and what did and did not get sprayed. Your alloy wheels, and I love that it has the alloy wheels, are missing their center caps, and your headlight bezel or side indicator light here is clearly bent and a little amiss. It looks like your hood line does not come down straight, and it looks like your hood is even cracked a little bit. And what this shows is that you can see how this hood and the back hatchback were actually made of this sort of composite fiberglass material and not steel. Another one of those little weight saving things and little innovations that never really gets lauded in the Aerostar. The blue, I can't tell if this is Bimini blue. It's a tough one for me to say. Like the last one we looked at, I think it is, but then the way it's sun faded in your hood and front quarter panel almost makes it look like the Portofino blue. And obviously as we go up here, just a lot of paint fade and clear coat fail and just straight up rust, various states of degradation. But I do really, really like the patina that's developing here on this vehicle. And then down low, we have this black stripe, which may be a rust patch cover up. We've talked about that, very common move. But then it looks like there's a little bit of blue showing through here. So not sure what's going on there, but certainly a beautiful cornucopia of just different shades and patinas and materials and dings and dents and what you would expect to see on a hard-working, no BS vehicle that has been driven 311,000 miles. That's what I like, is the aesthetic of this van fits. It's a workhorse, it is a cargo van. It's meant to, do stuff and do stuff well and do stuff thanklessly. I mean, that really at its peak is the Aerostar's ethos, and dressed up behind all these, aspirational, fanciful commercials, television commercials, which were all very true. But it's like the bloodline of America at the end of the day is just working people, right? We have all our glitz and our glamour and our Chrysler building and our Empire State Building. It's all very nice. It's all very fun to go visit and see. But the underbelly, the thing that keeps everything moving is just working class people. And that's what the Aerostar is. It's a working class van. But it doesn't mean that van can't also be a van about town.
It's really quite a van about town.
Can't be, good looking.
The handsome, dashing Ford Aerostar.
And can't receive awards, and you can't, take your lady out to dinner.
Escorting ladies.
With that van. So if that all makes sense, let's move on. Now, it looks like we got the 3-liter in here. I like how the engine bay is sort of like gussied up. I don't know if that's because liquids have been spraying everywhere, or maybe they sprayed down some, but it looks nice and shiny. I like that. Engine bay looks to be in good condition. Now, being North Carolina, kind of a perfect climate. Here's a beautiful little head-on shot there. And as much as it kind of normally would bug me when a bumper was missing in a vehicle, for some reason, again, you just lean into it and everything looks so great because of just like the consistency and how jankified it is. Now, what's interesting here is we have a grille that looks like it's either black or dark blue. Again, even in the grille, we have little chips and dings going on. It looks like there might have been a visor or some sort of little, maybe plastic guard for when your hood shuts. I have seen these Aerostars that have this like blue over like almost dark blue or like purple bumpers, like a very dark purple bumpers. So, but it does look shiny. It doesn't look like a flat matte black. So I'm wondering if it was, but I don't remember the grills being in that purple color, even with the ones with like this sort of dark purplish bumpers. So I'd be very curious to know where this grill came from. If it came from like maybe it is black and it came from a black Sport Aerostar. Could that possibly be? We need some sleuthing there, but that's just another sort of cool little addition. The fact that it's not, just a regular gray bumper. Moving around to the side, and here we do have this, not only this black line, but we start to see the little details. There's a little purple line going on here, which is a bright purple. I don't think that's factory at all. And as we see the way it's painted on the other side later, but I like that they took the time not only to paint this panel black, like if they're covering up rust or corrosion or whatever, but to put this little purple pinstripe in there is a very, very nice touch. It shows that someone, and it looks very neatly done. Sometimes these are very sloppy. This one looks like it was done, pretty nicely. And in addition to that, we have another white, looks like tri or quad pinstripe here, and maybe even another little dark blue one going on there. Now these I could see definitely being factory. And they look fantastic on this blue, but then you just keep adding in these little details. And look at on the roof line. We have a factory roof rack. We have all this just complete paint fail going on, just down to like basically gray sheet metal. The sliding door, appears to be working, but then in the back here we have serious denting going on. And we'll talk about this rear bumper in a second. We'll cover that in detail, but clearly the rear bumper is not stock, although it's funny that they didn't do one in the front to match it. Maybe that was more recent. Even your antenna looks like it's not stock. It looks like they've gotten some sort of, the antenna on stock antenna on the Aerostar is like, 2 times its height. And they have this little curly Q on in there. I like that it's a non-standard antenna. I mean, again, this thing clearly has, hit a lot of bumps and bruises along the way. But the thing I love about it is they've maintained it. Like, clearly it's been serviced and maintained because it's still running. It's still going despite all these, slings and arrows that have come its way. A lovely profile shot here with a little tiny little bush in there that almost looks like a bonsai tree or something in comparison to this Aerostar. All the paint fail going on there. Now let's look at this section right here. So we have this great, you know, again, we'll get into more detail, but it's almost like a wooden fabricated bumper. You have your sort of bolts on here, and then they took this black and purple line and then they just slipped it down right here. It's like they weren't quite sure how to go with it. You know, now I'm quite honestly, I'm surprised that they didn't just run this purple line all the way at this ridge here, because that's basically where your two-tone Aerostars run their color bar anyway. So it was kind of like ripe for the pick in there, just to run that purple line right in that crease and run the black all the way up here and make it like a blue over black. Instead, they just have it sort of sweep down and hit the next contour line. Interesting aesthetic choice. I quite like it, and when you step back and look at it in totality, that little step down there, right around, you know, your fender there, it does look, you know, quite nice. I like it. It works. It works, and you get more of the primary color there, so, you know, no complaints with this wonderful blue. Here we have a trailer hitch, and here you can see this black painted wood of your bumper. Nice looking trailer hitch. Okay, great shot here. We got the back. We got this little piece here, this little panel. For some reason, my brown one's the same way. I've seen it on so many Aerostars where it gets dented. Now, you know, not surprising, people back into things, it happens. But this is a really tough dent to get out, because for whatever reason, where this little piece here, there's no good way to get to it from the inside. And it's like the way it was stamped, it's not like a thin piece of metal. It's like very, very thick right there. So anywho, you know, it looks like this, maybe, now I'm starting to question, was this red line here, you know, to begin with? Maybe it's not purple, maybe it's like red, and maybe this actually was part of the factory, because the fact that it sweeps around the back tailgate here, maybe that was actually another little part of the color scheme here on this van from factory. But then I don't know how they, you know, maybe they matched as best they could right here. Again, a lot of mysteries with this Aerostar, but I'm so intrigued. It has such a history, clearly. Another great sticker here. My boss is a Jewish carpenter. Clearly a Jesus reference. I bought my 93 Sport off of a very devout man of faith, of the Christian faith, and, you know, he could not have been more, you know, Christian-like in his generosity and his, you know, just kindliness towards me. He was a very, very nice, fair fellow. So maybe that's a sign that, you know, maybe I should try to buy this vehicle. We'll see. You know, put in my good karma. That's the one that really jumps out at me. And then obviously you have some more OBX, I believe is like Outer Banks, and some ADT security, Atlantic Beach. You know, you got some very Virginia or North Carolina things going on here. Coastal. I wonder if this is a backup camera that we see here. Looks a little small, but with that, or it was, you know, now I'm really showing my ignorance if this was just a little factory like little blip that was put on by that third taillight there. I forget what year the third taillight came into existence in legislation, but it might just have something to do with that. We're starting to see some little better shots of this bumper, and what I really like about this bumper, this black painted wood bumper, is again how much time and care was taken into it. You know, they just didn't slap a piece of wood across. They actually cut this angle right here. And this is what makes the Aerostar bumper so challenging, is the tailgate actually extends down lower than sort of your, you know, rear quarter panel here. And that actually allows for, you know, a lower deck height to be able to, you don't have to lift things as high when you're putting it in the rear. So it's a very practical thing. But the Aerostar bumper cover sort of accommodates for that. So you have some screws in here. So I really like that they, you know, this is a well thought out janky bumper solution for the Aerostar. On the corner here, and this is a nice shot because we can see it in like sort of 3/4, you know, and then you have it matched here very nicely to this other board, and they're bolted together, and it comes right up and mimics, you know, amongst the many rudimentary bumper solutions I've seen, non-OEM bumper solutions I've seen for Aerostars, I think this might be the best one. Like, it really does it's not rounded on the side. If they really wanted to take it the distance, they would try to round this joint on the side right here to make it, you know, match this contour. But certainly, you know, at that point, maybe just go find an original one. I think it really does look nice, and it adds to just like the sort of janky DIY homemade demeanor of this vehicle, which I really, really like. It's just got so much character, and I don't even think, you know, obviously I would love to put a full set of bumpers on this, but I think the condition of this vehicle, and I really like, by the way, this profile shot from this side where you can see the absence of the sliding door. It somehow makes the long extended Aerostar look even longer without that door there, because we're so used to seeing vans now with 2 sliding doors. So it's just funny to see what looks to be a 2-door car. I mean, this looks like a coupe from this shot because there's no other sliding door. It's like this long angular dustbuster coupe. It's just very funny aesthetically to see this much length without any sort of doors cut in anywhere. I lost my train of thought there. Moving inside, there's even more jank going on. I mean, like, I hope there wasn't an electrical fire in here. I'm not sure if these are, you know, just panels that were, I mean, it's metal. It looks like it was either custom fabricated or that was just somehow whatever was left over from the plastic on top of it. But I'm guessing this is like, you know, custom metal work here. Maybe they just had something lying around that fit. There's also a custom button. I love a custom button on a car. I have no idea what this custom button is for, but I absolutely love that it's there. I want to know what it does. Clearly not a black interior like the description said, but more of your dark blue interior. Again, I love the dark blue interior on the sort of post facelift interior. A very 90s thing. You have your, you know, classic Ford racing steering wheel cover, which, you know, I would not be surprised if in this thing's lifetime it was entered in some sort of race, whether it be like a field race at a party or whatever, who knows. But I wonder if this button is for the lights here, because it looks like your light switch, the pull knob for it is removed. Now you could probably still use that just fine, but I do wonder if maybe they changed it to a button here. I like, you know, when a car gets to be this age and this mileage, that it's like when you either sell this vehicle or even when someone you know drives it, you have to explain to them like 6 or 7 different things you have to like do differently than like a stock version of the car. It's just something I like, that it's this unique creation. This seat is just like absolutely torn to shreds, it looks like. And this one's probably not much better, but we can't see it because of the seat cover on it. Okay, here we go to see the back, and yes, it does look like to be a passenger version. You have all your seat belts here, you have your interior paneling here. Headliner is shockingly decent condition actually for the you know, when in comparison to the rest of this vehicle. And it looks like you have a nice sort of carpet, and it looks almost like the carpet's like tucked around and stapled into some wood perhaps, but a very nice floor here. Looks nice and soft, obviously very stained, but it looks like 2 panels here that maybe are removable, so that's cool. And then I'm also seeing it looks like they took like the part of a dresser and put it in here, and like there's drawers or something in there. So, you know, I can see why they called it a cargo Aerostar for sure. So just all sorts of fun shenanigans going on in here, and I'm so curious as to, you know, just the life of this vehicle and what it was used for. And for under $1,000, I mean, that's the thing. If they listed it for $1,000, that's like a headline, like, ooh, $1,000 car, $1,000 Aerostar. But $975 is really smart, I think, because it's even less than $1,000. Anytime you see a vehicle that runs and drives listed for 3 digits instead of 4, it's like this, you know, extra little bonus, even though it's only $25. But I like that a lot too. Okay, we can see, you know, again, these seats are, they look like absolutely trashed. Even the seat cover is like barely hanging on. This looks like it's had, I don't know, so, I mean, I know zip tape's all the rage these days in fixing, you know, covering up rust and other vehicular problems. Looks like we do have power windows, which is interesting too. I mean, they did mention it was like the XL or XLT version. And I've seen so many nicer Aerostars, quote unquote nicer Aerostars with crank windows. So it is funny that even though this is like a total beater, it does have like the power window and power locks amenity. That's actually kind of cool. Some sort of tape that's been stuck over the fabric in this vehicle. But you know what? You know, if you really wanted to even just gussy this up a little bit. Just, you know, go find yourself a pair of Aerostar seats, no big deal. Some of the best seats in the business. Okay, we have you know, your stamping here, yada yada yada, 32 psi in the tires. Manufacturing date January of 1994. And here we have the title with the VIN. You got your 2 keys. It's already been notarized, as they mentioned. Looks like they've owned it since 2011. So, you know, 12 years, but then you got to figure that, you know, 3+ owners. But so it's kind of cool because, you know, even though they've clearly not owned it since new, the fact that they own it since 2011, it's already probably lived a long life, even in this incarnation of its, you know, ownership history. So let's see if we can get this video to load. Click on the volume here, and hopefully this will pick up through my microphone. Excuse me while we work through our technical difficulties here. All right, so we can hear it idling. Idle sounds nice. Oh. You know, so there you go. Clearly it's running and driving. I mean, any car that's running and driving for $975 is sort of like a steal. And you know, when you put the whole package together, again, like, I would love to make this like just my secondary work vehicle, my, you know, go pick up stuff vehicle. Obviously, I like that it's extended. I like that it's all, you know, beat to hell. It's very unassuming. You could like park this anywhere and nobody's gonna like steal it, except like maybe me. But I would already own it at that point, so I'm the only person you got to worry about. I like the color. I like the custom bumper work. I like the fact that it has, like, you know, the alloy wheels and the power windows. It's kind of like a jankified version of like a kind of an up market trim level, which I really like. I like the weird grille. I mean, so much about this vehicle. It's just like, it just jumps off the screen at me. I love the patina. I would love, you know, I would love one day to have like a really nice cream puff Aerostar. Like a lot of my Aerostars are pretty janky, but by the same token, and like my green 93 Sport with a couple little things, you know, some rust repair and that'll like present really well. I mean, it's already a veteran of the car show circuit, but I would like to have one that just aesthetically is just like full on send it, you know, like no bumpers, or this weird wooden bumpers, even better. And I like to continue on the story that this one's already been telling for a long time. So I'm really, really smitten with this Aerostar, and the fact that it's so cheap obviously sweetens the deal. High mileage too, you know, a car gets to a certain mileage and its high mileage goes from being a liability to being like a strength, where it's like, well, can I get this thing to 400,000 miles? You know, like even if I got to rebuild the engine and the transmission, like I love the idea of a 1,000,000-mile Aerostar. And so if you're going to have a 1,000,000-mile Aerostar, you're going to want to start as high as possible on the mileage. So for so many reasons, I'm just absolutely obsessed with this Aerostar, and I did not mean to go on for this long about it. I figured, you know, these little local ones will be shorter episodes as opposed to like the sort of, you know, European crazy story ones. But this one just really captured my heart, so I want to talk about it. So there you go. Pretty solid episode, I think. I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you everybody who commented. I'm sorry it took me a while to write some of you back in the comments, and I still got to email some of you. I apologize. It's just been absolutely crazy time of the year here in upstate New York, trying to get all our outside painting done. But I will be in touch with those of you who I need to get in touch with, and we'll try to work some things out, do some things. A lot of exciting things going on here at Janky AF as always. Another slew of new subscribers. Thank you so much. We're slowly but surely marching towards 1,000. So if you just happen to be catching this and you are not subscribed, please go ahead and delicately pummel that subscribe button, or delicately smash it, or daintily demolish it, however you want to say it. You know, much like this Aerostar has been, taking a beating. That's what we want you to do to that subscribe button. All right. Thank you for watching. This has been another episode of You're the Aerostar here on Janky AF. We will have another one very soon. And until then, Janky to Thanky.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.